Okay, so hello everyone. Today in this particular class, we are going to cover the next part, that is chapter 3, unit 2, which is going to be about cost. Friends, if you haven't studied chapter 3, unit 1, which relates to production, my advice strongly would be to first of all watch that class. The reason is that production and cost, both of these chapters are, you know, closely interlinked. So if you don't understand one, you will naturally not understand the other one. So I'm assuming everybody who is watching this class has already covered production and then they have come to cost. So, sir, what does this topic talk about, and is it too lengthy? No, it's not as lengthy as production was. The reason behind this is simple, that in cost we have three major topics. Topic number one is the different types of costs. Number one. Number two, different cost curves. I mean the shape of the different curves. That is point number two. Point 1 2 done. Point 3 is about economies and diseconomies of scale. These are the 3 points that are relevant to our discussion of this particular unit, right? I'll remind you that whatever I'll be highlighting in yellow color would be rather more important, have higher chances of appearance in future examinations, or have already occurred in the past examinations. So, give a closer look to that. Okay, so having said that, what is cost? Whenever production activity is undertaken, some sacrifice is done. That sacrifice is cost. It can be in terms of monetary outflow, or it can be in terms of restriction of monetary inflow. Don't worry, I will highlight this. I will explain what I am trying to convey here, but that is what is cost. Any sacrifice done for a production activity to take place. Any sacrifice done for a production activity to take place. Any sacrifice done for a production activity to take place. Sir, we have indeed understood this. All right, great. Now, let's come to the first classification in the cost world. That would be accounting cost and economic cost. A really interesting discussion. If you listen to the discussion, you would again fall in love with the subject, as well as you will automatically understand this topic. So let's have a look at it. See, the thing is that when you talk from accounting point of view, accounting cost is nothing but explicit cost. Let me write it down for you. Accounting cost is nothing but it is equal to explicit cost. Let me write it down for you. Accounting cost is equals to explicit cost. But your question would be, sir, that still we did not understand what you're trying to tell. Okay, let me highlight it then. All right, let me highlight it then. See, just assume that you start production. Okay, you're doing a business activity, you're undertaking a business activity, that is, you have started production. Now, as per accounting, something is a cost if you have to pay for it. If you have to pay for it, for example, I was conducting a business activity, and in doing so I paid 500 rupees for, let's say, a 1 day cleaning of my house. Okay, I paid, let's say, 500 rupee for a single day cleaning of my house or my center, right, wherein I am teaching. Let's say, suppose 5,000 I had to pay for electricity, 500 per day for cleaning. So 500 per day for cleaning means 500 into 30, it would land up to 15,000. Just assume, okay, 15,000 for cleaning. So friends, on a monthly basis I am paying 20,000 rupees. Just assume. Let's assume another 35,000, or let's say 45,000 rent that I am paying. So 45,000 plus 20,000, it lands to 65,000. In accounting, uh, in accounting, something is a cost when you are actually having to pay for it. That is what is accounting cost or explicit cost, which you are actually paying for, which is resulting in actual outflow of money. Understood, sir. Understood, sir. That is what, dear students, is about accounting costs. Again, but economics, as far as economic cost is concerned, it is much wider. First of all, I will write it down and then I will elaborate it in a more detailed way. See, economic cost, if you all want to note it down for the sake of your preparation in exam, economic cost is explicit cost, that is accounting cost, plus implicit cost. before I explain what implicit cost is, I will like to revise what explicit cost is, which I just mentioned. Explicit cost is also known as accounting cost. It is a cost which is resulting in actual outflow of money. Don't worry, I will mark it in the material as well. But first try to understand, explicit cost is anything that is resulting in actual outflow of money. For example, I gave the rent that I have paid, salaries that I am having to pay, raw materials that I am having to buy. All these are coming under explicit cost, hence accounting cost. But economic cost is much more wider. So in explicit cost, we also add implicit cost. Now, what is implicit cost? Here I come for you for that particular discussion. Pay attention, everyone. See, implicit cost refers to the imputed value of inputs owned by the firm and used in own production unit. Let me elaborate this. Okay, suppose friends, I have basically undertaken a venture where I decided that okay, I'll be teaching students across India. All right, now in taking that decision, just try to understand that I am sacrificing the salary or the amount that I could have earned as a chartered accountant had I been working for some other firm or some other business. Yes or no? Yes, sir. There is a sacrifice there. The money I am investing into, let's say, buying this pen, into buying the camera, which I am teaching, which I am using to teach, the money that I had invested there, in this pen and everything, instead of investing this money, I could have kept this money in the bank and I would have made some interest out of it. By the decision of doing something on my own, of running my own venture, I have sacrificed two things: the salary that I could have made. Number two, when I had invested some capital into this particular arrangement, into this particular venture, the interest that I could have earned on that capital, I am also sacrificing that. Yes or no? Yes. That sacrifice is implicit cost. Understood, sir. So you will naturally feel that it's logically right to think that way. Yes, it is. So when you think from accounting perspective, which is okay, accounts purpose is to report, but it is rather a narrow perspective, and there we only consider explicit cost. But if you are to calculate economic cost, you do have to consider explicit cost plus implicit cost. What is implicit cost? It is the imputed value of inputs owned by the firm and used in own production units. Understood? Imputed value means the estimated value, right, of inputs owned by the firm. So for example, my hard work is my input. I own that hard work, and instead of doing it somewhere else, I am doing it for my own venture. In doing so, I am sacrificing the money that I could have made by working as a chartered accountant elsewhere. That sacrifice, that salary sacrifice, is implicit cost. The money I am putting into this pen, this camera, and everything is again what is again an implicit cost, and that is again coming into this picture, and that's what makes up your economic cost. Understood, sir? Two or three more points become relevant for the discussion, but let me remind you something. This similar concept, this similar concept of explicit cost and implicit cost, we had also studied under the production chapter. Yes, sir. Just before, that is why when I started the class, I told you must have seen the production. In the production chapter also, I will remind you from the ICI material, page number 3.14, paragraph number 2, line number 1. There also we had understood that there is a difference between economic profit and accounting profit. The first line of the institute material, page 3.14. Yes, sir. We do remember this. That is what exactly it's talking about. So economic cost is both explicit cost and implicit cost. Now, there are two more terms I will explain: normal profit, supernormal profit, and economic profits. Okay, just give me some time and I'll come to that. First of all, let's highlight whatever we have studied. See, accounting costs relate to those costs which involve cash payments by the entrepreneur. I told you, accounting costs are those costs which results in actual outflow. Thus accounting costs are explicit costs. Here it is, which I had already written. Accounting costs are explicit costs. And now pay attention, includes all payments and charges. We are talking about accounting costs. Okay, accounting costs includes Accounting costs includes all payments and charges made by the entrepreneur to the suppliers of various productive factors. These are expenses incurred by the firm. They are recorded in the financial statement, that is your statement of profit and loss and all those statements, balance sheet, etc. However, when an entrepreneur invests a certain amount of capital in his business, they are sacrificing the interest they could have earned. For the work they are doing, they are sacrificing the salary that they could have earned elsewhere. Yes, these costs also form part of economic cost. Yes, sir, we indeed understand this. The return on money capital, the wages or salaries not paid to entrepreneur but which would otherwise be payable had they been working elsewhere. Yes, sir. Thus, economic cost includes both accounting cost and implicit cost. Exactly what I mentioned, exactly what I explained. Yes, sir, we indeed understand this. Understood, sir. Understood, sir. Remember, accounting costs are also called explicit costs. Okay. Now, it becomes important to explain two topics. Since you all are economic students, so you should know this. Normal profits, one term. Number two is supernormal profits or positive economic profits. Before I explain anything as such, remember, normal profit is part of implicit costs. Remember, normal profit is part of implicit cost. This is a favorite question from the MCQ point of view. That is normal profit included in implicit cost? Yes, no, different kinds of question will come. Remember, the answer is yes. Normal profit is a part of implicit cost. But now I understand your trouble, your pain. But sir, what is normal profit? You haven't explained us this. First of all, let me revise with you implicit cost. Again, friends, suppose, like I mentioned you, my hard work that I am putting in, that into the business, if the same hard work I would have been putting elsewhere, I would have made some money out of it. That sacrifice is implicit cost. Understood, sir. Let me explain it using another example, right? Suppose, my dear students, I have two houses. Okay, I have two houses. House number one and house number two. I have two houses. Now, friends, what happens is, one house, pay attention everyone, there are two houses, house 1 and house 2. House 1 is where I am living, and house 2, I tell my parents that okay, leave this house, I'll be using it for some of my business activities. Now, this house 2 could have been given for rent. My parents would have earned some rent out of it. But because I have taken this decision that I'll be using house 2 for my own purpose, the rent that could have been earned is being sacrificed. That is implicit cost. Okay, sir, we have understood this. Now, what is normal profit? Pay attention now. There are two concepts I'm explaining now: normal profit, economic profits, supernormal profits. Pay attention, everyone. See, suppose if had I been, had I been working elsewhere, I would have gotten a salary of, let's say, 40 lakh rupees a year. Just assume. But I decided to do my own venture, and in my own venture, I am making a profit of 40 lakh rupees per year. In accounting terms, it is very good. Wow, 40 lakhs a year is your profit. Very good. But in economic terms, it is called earning normal profits or zero economic profits. Normal profits or zero economic profits. So remember, normal profits is also called zero economic profits. Sir, why so? Why so? Because using my business also, I am earning what I would have earned normally had I been not doing the business. Acha. Sir, now we understand. And therefore the concept of normal profits. Even if I was not doing this business, I would have made 40 lakhs as it is. That is the concept of normal profits slash zero economic profits. But then, sir, another question arises. What is supernormal profits, sir? Sir, what is supernormal profits then? Let's highlight this question then. What is supernormal profits? Friends, what is supernormal profit is what now I am going to iterate and talk about. See, suppose I would have earned elsewhere 40 lakh rupees, sticking to that point, but using my own venture, I am earning 60 lakh rupees. Can you tell me how much extra am I making? I'm making 20 lakhs extra. That is what is positive economic profits or economic profits actually. Positive economic profits, this is what it is, or supernormal profits. So supernormal profit is the profits above normal profits. Now what is normal profits? The profits that you would have made even if you were not undertaking this venture. Acha, sir, we have indeed understood this. Yes, sir. So this is what the concept of economic profits slash supernormal profits is. I am sure you all have understood this. So remember, supernormal profits is called positive economic profits, but normal profit is zero economic profit. Normal profit is zero economic profit. Normal profit is zero economic profit, and positive economic profit is supernormal profit. Yes, sir. It's clear. It's clear to us. Now, remember, an entrepreneur is said to be earning positive economic profits when the revenue, that is the total sales, is greater than both explicit and implicit costs. Obviously, it's natural to assume this, it's correct. Now, moving on. Two concepts. So, first concept is over. I am sure everybody has understood what was the first concept. Accounting costs and economic costs, right? Now, moving on. Let's talk about outlay costs and opportunity costs. A very simple explanation. Outlay costs, we have just discussed, cost that involve actual expenditure, actual outflow, that involve actual outflow. For example, for rent, if you are actually having to pay money, that is outlay. For raw materials, wages, you are actually having to pay money, is what outlay cost is. So is it not similar to what explicit cost is? Definitely yes. Explicit cost and outlay cost are the same only. There is no difference whatsoever. Outlay means which results in outflow. Understood, sir. For example, if I were to give you outlay cost example, so see, I have roasted peanut jar, right? Now, if this roasted peanut jar, I had to buy, I had to pay some cash. This is my outlay cost. Let's say as a business, this is my outlay cost. Understood, sir. But suppose these were made in my own home. This would have been opportunity cost. There would have been opportunity cost. I will explain how. But first of all, keep things simple in mind. Outlay cost means costs that involve actual outflow, which is same as explicit costs. Understood, sir. What is opportunity cost? Very good question. Opportunity cost is the cost of next best alternative sacrificed. Opportunity cost is the cost of next best alternative sacrificed. Opportunity cost is the cost of next best alternative sacrificed or foregone in order to pursue a certain action. So in order to pursue a certain action, we sacrificed some portions, right? We sacrificed something. That sacrifice is called opportunity cost. Understood, sir. Understood, sir. Let me give you another example now. Suppose, let's decide a person, Mr. Rahul, decides to do business. Mr. Rahul decides to do business. Now, instead of business, Mr. Rahul could have opted for 3 jobs. The first job would fetch him 50 lakhs annually, second one 40 lakhs annually, third one 30 lakhs annually. Let's say Mr. Rahul sacrificed 50 lakhs annually. Let's say Mr. Rahul sacrificed 50 lakhs annually. So this is the opportunity cost for Mr. Rahul. Opportunity cost is only about the next best alternative. Implicit cost talks about all the sacrifices that you have done. While opportunity cost talks only about the next best sacrificed. So in reality, you are not paying anything, but still there is a sacrifice. The example that I gave, the two houses, suppose that I had one house we were residing, the other house I decided to use for my own business venture. When I have decided so, The rent that could have been earned is being sacrificed. That is the opportunity cost of using this house. That is the opportunity cost of using this house. Understood, sir. Understood, sir. You all are watching this class. You all are watching this class. You all are attending live or recorded, whatever, of this class. In doing so, you are sacrificing the next best thing you could have done. Maybe you would be, going out with friends at this moment. Maybe you would be, relaxing, sleeping at home at this moment. That is your opportunity cost. The next best alternative sacrificed. So outlay cost results in actual outflow of money. In opportunity cost, there is no actual outflow of money involved, you see. Understood, sir. Understood, sir. So this we have highlighted, and I have also, marked them, right? Opportunity cost is the amount or subjective value that is foregone in choosing one activity over the next best alternative. Yes, sir. Now, in long term cost calculations, also opportunity cost is a useful concept, right? For example, if I pursue higher education, how much I would pay? If I were to do business now, how much I am actually having to pay? So kind of cost benefit analysis can be done, right? Now, there are two other concepts: direct or traceable costs and indirect or non-traceable costs. Sir, what are these? Friends, direct or traceable cost means costs that can be attributed to a particular product unit. Indirect or non-traceable costs are costs that cannot be traced to any particular product unit. Meaning what, sir? Let me give you an example. Suppose in a factory, three products are being manufactured. Product type 1, product type 2, product type 3. Okay, for a factory we pay a common rent, we pay a common electricity bill, right? But now what happens is that product 1 requires raw material A, product 2 requires raw material B, and product 3 requires raw material C. Tell me something. Tell me something, friends. Raw material A can be traced to product 1. Raw material B can be traced to product 2. Raw material C can be traced to product 3. These are direct costs. So raw material A is a direct cost. Why? Because it can be traced in production of P1. Raw material B is a direct cost because it can be traced in production of P2. Raw material C is a direct cost because it can be traced to production of P3. But tell me something. The rent of the factory that you are paying or the electricity bill of the factory that you are paying, can you basically bifurcate into these three products? No, you can't. These are indirect costs which cannot be directly attributed to a particular product with surety. Understood, sir. Understood, sir. I can give another example if it helps. Suppose you know uh, you are two siblings, right? You are two siblings, right? You are finished products, right, produced by your parents. Okay, now you all stay, both of you siblings have got a common room. Understood? Now what happens is that suppose one of your siblings is in class 12 and let's say you are at foundation level. Naturally, you people are using different books, you people have different education fees. When your parents are paying these education fees, they can directly trace it, that okay, this is allocated to child 2, this is allocated to child 1. Such costs are direct costs which can be allocated to a particular product or an individual. But assume that both of you share a common room for which there is an electricity bill of 1500 rupees per month. Can your parents bifurcate this with surety that okay, child 2 must have consumed electricity worth 1000 and this child who is pursuing foundation must have pursued pay, must have incurred electricity bill of 1500 whatever? Can they do it with surety? No. But if it comes to educational expenditure, can that be allocated directly? Yes. The cost that can be directly allocated to a particular product is direct. The one that cannot be allocated directly with surety, that is an indirect cost. Sir, we have understood this. Sir, we have understood this. Let's highlight that and then let's move on to the next topic, right? Let me highlight it. Just a moment. Okay. So look, direct costs are those costs. Direct costs are those costs which have a direct relationship with a component of operation, right? Such costs are directly charged to a product. Like I said, the raw material cost, right? Yes, sir. Direct costs are costs that are easily identified and traceable to a particular product, that this raw material must have gone to this product only, so should be charged from this product only. Understood, sir. Understood, sir. But indirect costs are those which are not easily identifiable with a particular product. The rent example that I gave. Understood, sir. Electricity example that I gave. Understood, sir. Next, sir, what is incremental cost and what is sunk cost? See, incremental costs are related to marginal cost. Let me give you an example. Okay, let me give you an example to explain incremental cost. Okay, right. Suppose I decide to use this house, the house 2 that I mentioned about, right? I decided I want to do something on my own in house 2. Now friends, let's see what options I have. One option could be I can set up my own coaching institute. In such a scenario, I will have to spend some money on projector, some money on camera, some money on chairs, tables, some money. Acha, air conditioner is useless because it will be incurred elsewhere also. So coaching, right? If I decide to do coaching, I would have to buy projector, I would have to buy chair tables, I would have to buy camera. But if I decide not to do coaching, instead I decided to, let's say, get into consulting, okay, recruitment consulting or something of this sort, or financial consulting. In such a scenario, I would need chairs and tables, I would need some softwares that would help my business grow. In third point could be I decide that okay, I'll start manufacturing some items in this particular house, so I will need to buy machines. Now see, in each of these three alternatives, the expenditure that I would have to incur will be different. This additional expenditure is called, you are correct, incremental cost. Incremental cost. What extra cost we have to incur if we take a particular decision is called incremental cost. What extra cost we have to incur if we take a particular decision is incremental cost. A simple example I could give was, let's say, summers are coming and you decide that okay, your old air conditioner is not working well, so let's buy a new one, and in exchange of the old one, so if you give the old one and you buy a new one, the shopkeeper tells you that they will charge you 30,000 extra. This extra that you will have to pay if you decide to give the old one and buy a new one, this extra amount that you will have to pay is the incremental cost, the additional cost that you will have to incur. Understood? So it is synonymous with additional cost or marginal cost. Okay, sir. Sir, what is sunk cost? Sunk cost are those costs which are already incurred, cannot be recovered, and have no bearing on the decision making, and cannot be reversed even if the firm wishes to do so. Okay, sir, can you explain this example? Right, right. I'll give you an example. Okay, suppose this house was not my own. I decide that okay, I'm going to do something on my own, so I pay 1 year's advance rent to the landlord. Understood? Not understood? This is what is sunk cost. Now whatever I do in this house, it is immaterial, the cost is already incurred. Suppose I decide to conduct a research activity in my area as to what help people need in my area. Now whatever be the result of that research cost is already gone. That is what is sunk cost. Understood, sir? Moving on. Another cost example is historical cost and replacement cost. Friends, what is historical cost? Suppose in 2020 I bought this pen. In 2020 I bought this pen. Let's say this pen had costed me 5,000 rupees in 2020, right? Suppose now we are in 2025. Okay, if I were to buy a similar pen today, exact brand new pen of the same particular brand, everything same, then I would have to pay, let's say, 8,000. So here you get the difference between historical cost and replacement cost. Historical cost refers to the past cost, that is the cost at which something was purchased earlier. Replacement cost is if exactly the same thing you want today, how much you would have to pay? That is replacement cost. Sir, we have understood this. So a very simple explanation, yes, historical cost refers to the cost incurred in the past to acquire an asset, be it machinery, building, anything. Replacement cost is the money expenditure that has to be incurred for replacing an old asset. Exactly what I mentioned. If I want to replace this pen and buy a new one today, then how much do I pay? That is what is your replacement costs. Understood, sir. Next, private costs and social costs. Another important point. Another important point. Private costs are the costs which are actually incurred or provided for by firms. Costs that the firms have to incur. Everyone, costs which the firms have to incur. That is what is private cost. That is what is private cost. They are part of the total cost. They form part of the total cost. They form part of the total cost. These costs form part of the total cost. These costs form part of the total costs. Right? Understood, sir. Nothing here. But what is social cost? Let me give you a formula. Social cost is equal to, pay attention everyone, social cost is equals to private cost, that the cost that the firms have to bear, right? Which is explicit and implicit cost, plus explicit and implicit cost plus external cost. Sir, now what is external cost? See, private cost you already know, which the firms have to bear, the economic cost. But external cost is, suppose the firm decides to produce a machine. When the firm is using this machine, a lot of pollution in the environment is taking place, because of which people are suffering from diseases and are having to go for medical checkups and are having to buy medicine. Now this checkup that people are going for and the medicines that they are buying, these costs are external cost. Understood, sir? So social cost is cost borne by the firm plus cost borne by the society because of the firm. And the cost borne by the society is the external cost. Sir, it is clear. It is clear. Right. Social cost refers to total cost borne by the society on account of business activity and includes private cost and external cost, which I exactly mentioned. Social cost is private cost plus external cost. Right, sir. Understood, sir. It may be the cost incurred in combating pollution and every other thing. Now, what are fixed and variable cost? The most important of all the costs, which will definitely come up in the exam. I'm not saying can come. I am saying will come in the exam. Fixed and variable cost. Pay attention, everyone. Fixed costs are those costs which do not depend on the total output level. Sir, meaning? Let me give you an example. Okay. I take a godown on rent. This godown has a capacity to store 1 lakh units of goods. The rent that I am having to pay for this godown is rupees 50,000 per month. Okay. In a particular month, I do not store anything. Or in a particular month, I store 10,000 units. In a particular month, I store 20,000 units. In a particular month, I store 1 lakh units. Tell me something. Is it going to make any difference? No. Because at the end of the day, I will land up paying 50,000 per month. This is what is fixed cost. That doesn't change with output level. It is fixed no matter the output produced. Understood, sir? So rent, salaries, all these are fixed costs, right? Fixed are not a function of output. They do not depend on output level. They do not depend on output level. They require a fixed expenditure, be it monthly, yearly, that's a different story altogether. Example, rent, interest on loans that one has to pay, right? All these are fixed costs. Sir, what are, acha, one more thing. Fixed costs cannot be avoided, they have to be paid for. Fixed costs cannot be avoided, they have to be paid for, right? Thus, they are also called uncontrollable costs. They are also called uncontrollable costs or unavoidable costs. Right. But sir, what are variable costs? But what are variable costs? Acha, before I come to variable costs, remember a very important point, shutdown costs. Shutdown costs are those costs. Suppose a business decides for some time we will not be in operation. Suppose a business decides for some time we will not be in operation, we will not be doing business. Even then you will have to pay. That is shutdown cost. I told you now that suppose during COVID my business decided not to store any product. Still I had to keep that go down. So I still had to pay that go down rent. Obviously, if I decide to close the business completely, then even shutdown costs need not be incurred. But remember, shutdown costs are those costs which are incurred if business operations are suspended, not closed. Understood, sir. Coming back to variable cost. Friends, a very easy point. Variable costs are those costs that change with the output level. A very easy example I could give was, suppose I have a chips factory and every one packet of chips, let's say every one packet of chips that I produce, I have to use one potato. And let's say one potato costs me rupees 3. Just for example, one unit potato costs me rupees 3. So for one packet of chips, one potato of rupees 3. So had there been 5 packet of chips, then 5 potatoes means 5 into 3, that is equals to rupees 15. If 10 packets, if 10 packets, if 10 packets, then 10 into 3 would cost me how much? Rupees 30. Yes or no, everyone? Exactly my point. So see, as the output levels are changing, as I am producing more packets, the cost is changing. This exactly is what is referred to as a variable cost. They change with the production. Understood, sir? Sir, understood, sir. Now, a very important question that comes up is from cost function. Sir, what is cost function? It's nothing but a functional relationship between, I have told you in economics, whenever you see the word function, it is the relation between input and output. So, total cost incurred depends on so many things. The technology I am using, the rent that I am paying, the salary that I am paying. So, the relationship between total cost and the factors affecting total cost is cost function. Cost function refers to the relationship between cost of a product and the various factors affecting the cost of the product. Exactly what I mentioned. What are the different factors affecting the cost of a product? The quantity that I am producing, more the quantity, more the cost. Technology, better the technology, higher the costs of production. I mean to buy that technology, not the per unit cost I am talking about. Understood, sir. Understood, sir. Now, friends, from here you will have to recall things, right? See, there are two concepts of cost we discussed. Number one was short run concept and number two was long run concept. What was short run? In production we have studied. Short run refers to a time period where how many types of factors of production are there? There are two types of factors of production, fixed factors and variable factors. Sir, what is long run? A time period where all the factors of production are variable. Do you remember this? Yes, sir. So now, in short run, there are two kinds of costs. Since there are two types of factors of production, the costs are also of two types. You see, on one end you have fixed costs. On the other hand, you have variable costs. On one hand you have fixed costs. On the other hand you have variable costs. Sir, we do understand this. Sir, we do understand this. So let's talk about this, right? Let's talk about this. Variable cost example, raw material. Raw material is a variable cost. Raw material is a variable cost. Similarly, building, capital equipment, rent that you are paying are fixed costs. Are fixed costs. But raw material is a variable cost. Now we talk about their totality. So now let's talk about their totality one by one. See the graph for fixed cost. A very easy question could be from graphs. So remember, when you draw a total fixed cost graph, it is a horizontal line parallel to x-axis. Why is it so? The definition itself makes it very clear. Even if you are not producing anything, suppose your godown rent is 10,000. Even if you decide not to produce and store anything, still your godown rent is 10,000. Suppose you decide to produce 500 units and store it, still the godown rent is 10,000. If you decide to store and produce 1000 units, still the godown rent is rupees 10,000. That is the concept of fixed cost. Dear students, this is the concept of fixed cost, where the total cost remains the same no matter the level of output. No matter the level of output, the total cost remains the same. That is total fixed cost. Understood, sir? What is total variable cost? I had already given you an example. If nothing is produced, total variable cost will be zero. But as you start production, the chips example that I gave you, if you produce one packet of chips, let's say raw materials worth rupees 5 rupees you have to use. So if you produce two packets of chips, raw material worth rupees 10 rupees needs to be used. If you produce three packets of chips, raw material worth rupees 15 needs to be used. So you see, as the output rises, cost is rising. So there seems to be a direct relationship between the two, and this is exactly what I have tried to highlight here. That is the graph of total variable cost. In short run, by the way, we are talking about. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But remember, this is on the assumption that they are completely variable. There is an assumption that they are completely variable, but in reality, there is no cost which are perfectly variable nor absolutely fixed. There is no cost which will be completely variable. No, it is not possible. And similarly, there is no cost that is going to be absolutely fixed. Remember this. So before I talk about this a little more, let's discuss one more cost concept, which is called stair step variable cost. Sir, what is stair step variable cost? I'll explain this to you. A very simple point. Friends, suppose there is a big unit, big factory unit, or a big location, okay, big venue. This venue is divided into four rooms: room number 1, room number 2, room number 3, room number 4. Now they are so big that each room requires one security if you are storing some product in that room. Now friends, pay attention. Suppose till now, since I store very few units, each room is capable of storing 5,000 units. So now, since in my business I store only up to 5,000 units, I was using room 1. Let's shade room 1. I have shaded room 1. Okay. So now any unit I store between 0 to 5,000 units, any unit I store between 0 to 5,000, I only have to pay rent for room 1. Let's say the rent for room 1 is 20,000. Let's say 20,000 is the rent for room 1. Even if I'm storing 3,000 units, I am having to pay 20,000. Even if I'm having to store 4,000 units, I'm having to pay 20,000. That's what is particular. Now, imagine if I move to 5,001 units till 10,000. Think of this. Can I afford only one watchman? No. Now I will need two. So how much will I have to pay? 40,000. So see, 20,000 was fixed for all output levels between 0 to 5,000. But as soon as it moved to 5,001, the cost also rose. So see, it is fixed up to a certain extent. But as soon as that extent crosses, that is 5,001, again it rises and then becomes constant. So from 5,000 to 10,000, it is again constant. Assuming that I will again need another room, again it will become constant, but the cost will rise first. So this is exactly what stair step variable cost talks about. But now moving on to actual variable cost and fixed cost diagram. Multiple MCQs can be set from here, so pay attention. Sir, you told us that total variable cost looks like this. I told you it was assuming that the cost is completely variable, but in reality no cost is completely variable. It also depends on other factors. So what is the actual graph of the short run total cost curves? If institute asks us to identify which graph we will mention, it is this graph that we will mention. Remember this, it is this graph that we will mention, the ultimate graph. I'll explain this, don't worry. So see, as you have already seen, total fixed cost is constant. Now where does total fixed cost start from? A very important question that can come in the exam. You see, it starts from y-axis. Why does it start from y-axis? Why does TFC start from y-axis? Because even if nothing is produced, it has still to be incurred. It still has to be incurred. Yes, sir. Understood, sir. But moving on, what is the shape of total variable cost? Friends, total variable cost is of inverse S shape. Total variable cost is of inverse S shaped. The question is, why total variable cost is inverse S shaped? Again, you all remember law of variable proportions. So the answer to this is law of variable proportion. Because you remember, when we studied law of variable proportion, we studied that production increases at an increasing rate. So when production increases at an increasing rate, cost will increase at a diminishing rate. Ah, understood, sir. And hence this graph. And you must remember, what is total cost equal to? TFC plus TVC. So even if nothing is produced, TVC will be 0. But at quantity 0, total cost will still be equal to total fixed cost. A very important question that can come. That what happens when quantity level is 0. So friends, when quantity is 0, TVC is 0, but TFC is still being incurred. So at 0 quantity level, TC equals to TFC, and therefore both TC and TFC start from the same point. And gradually TC changes as per TVC. Why? Because TFC is constant, and therefore the shape of TC curve is also inverse S. If in exam they ask you why TC and TVC are inverse S shaped, if in exam they ask you why TC and TVC are inverse S shaped, if in exam they ask you why TC and TVC are inverse S shaped, remember it is due to law of variable proportion. Remember it is due to law of variable proportion that TC and TVC curves are inverse S shaped. So two MCQs we have discussed. What is their shape? TC and TVC inverse S. Why? Law of variable proportion. Where does TFC start from? Y axis. Why? Because even if nothing is produced, TFC is still incurred. Why does TC starts from the point where TFC starts? TC and TFC start from the same point because even if nothing is produced, TFC is still incurred, and if nothing is produced, variable cost is 0, and TC is TFC plus TVC. TC is TFC plus TVC. So even if dear students, TVC is 0, TC will be equal to TFC, na? Understood, sir. So this is from the viewpoint of the MCQs that can come. Let me highlight that for you as well. Okay. So symbolically, TC equals to, just a minute. Symbolically, TC equals to TFC plus TVC they have given us. Now, where does TFC curve start from? We have discussed it starts from the y-axis. Why does it start from the y-axis? It means that fixed cost will be incurred even if the output is 0. Even if nothing is produced, fixed cost will still be incurred. Understood, sir? And why does total variable cost start from the origin? Because if nothing is produced, you will not buy raw materials, and therefore total variable cost will be 0. So total variable cost starts from the origin. Understood, sir? Now, TVC increases at a decreasing rate and then increases at an increasing rate. Why? Because of the law of variable proportion. We remember this, sir. Because of the law of variable proportion. See, it talks about operation of diminishing returns, increasing returns, which we studied under law of variable proportion. Why the shape of TC and TVC are same at every level? Because there is a common distance between them, which is TFC. One may ask you, why is the distance between these two always same? Distance between TC and TVC, why is it same? Because the difference between them is nothing but TFC. Since TFC is always fixed, the name itself says total fixed cost, and therefore the distance between the two is fixed. So friends, this was all about the total concepts. Let's move into the world of average concepts. So for every average, dear students, we need to remember something, that if it comes average fixed cost, remember it would be TFC by quantity. If they ask you average variable cost, it would be total variable cost by quantity. If they ask you average cost, okay, it would be total cost by quantity. Sir, understood, sir. So now let's talk about this. What is the shape of each curve? So formula you have understood. AFC is TFC by Q, AVC is TVC by Q, right? And similarly AC equals to now, but the shape, a very important discussion. See, the shape of AFC curve is rectangular hyperbola. Very important. The shape of AFC curve is what? Rectangular hyperbola. Why is it so, sir? I will explain you this. But remember, one more point in economics where you have studied this shape. It was under the case of unitary elastic demand, which you studied, where you had this same shape. Now, why this shape? See, AFC is total fixed cost by quantity. So when quantity rises, since TFC is constant, AFC will gradually fall. Yes or no? And therefore AFC becomes a horizontal line. Will it touch the x-axis? No, because AFC can never be zero. Why? Because total fixed cost is never zero. Understood, sir. So shape of AVC is clear. Sorry, AFC is clear. Now, what is the shape of AVC? What is the shape of average cost? What is the shape of marginal cost? All the three are U-shaped. If in exam they ask you why, remember the answer, law of variable proportion, then explain all the three stages of this law. I mean, you don't have to explain. What I'm trying to say is that you need to remember this. Understood, sir. Now, coming back to the topic, AFC is a rectangular hyperbola. You all understand this. Now, you see something and that can become a part of your question, right? ATC is this curve, AVC is this curve. Initially, you see there is a lot of distance between the two, between ATC and AVC, average total cost and average variable cost. Gradually, you see this distance is declining gradually. Why so? Because the distance between two is average fixed cost. As quantity rises, average fixed cost falls, and so the distance between the two also declines. Can average total cost and average variable cost touch each other? No. Why? Because average fixed cost can never be zero. So there will always be some distance between the two. Understood, sir. Had average fixed cost been equal to zero, then we would have said that okay, at some point in time ATC will become equal to AVC. But no, it's untrue, because no matter how small, average fixed cost will still be positive always. Understood, sir. So a lot of things we have discussed. Let's mark them out. So it is a U-shaped curve. ATC is a U-shaped curve. We have already understood. ATC is the sum total of this. Right, sir. And there is sharper distance between the two because initially AFC occupies more part, and gradually with the rising output average fixed cost falls and the distance between the two falls. Sir, what is marginal cost? A good question asked. Friends, marginal cost is nothing but change in total cost. Friends, marginal cost is nothing but change in total cost. I will explain. Don't worry, na. Don't worry. Don't worry. Let's say, friends, if you produce one unit, your total cost incurred is 500. But suppose you produce 2 units, your total cost incurred is 570. So due to, now see, for that second unit, what is the marginal cost? Due to that one extra unit produced, you had to pay 70 rupees extra. That, my dear friends, is your marginal cost. That 70, that extra you had to pay. One more secret I need to tell you is that to find marginal cost, it is not necessary that you deduct TC only. You can also deduct TVC. Do you want to know why? Because see, TC is TVC plus TFC. TFC remains constant. So even if TC is changing, because of what TC is changing? Because of variable cost it is changing. Understood, not understood? Yes, sir. Let me, show a graph to make things even better. I mean a table, a schedule to make things clearer. See, even if nothing is produced, total fixed cost still incurred. And that is why it is equal to total cost. See, there is no average or marginal concept at this level, so we put a dash here. But now, when you produce 1 unit of this, you are incurring total fixed cost of 1000 and variable cost of 50. So total cost is how much? 1050. What is average fixed cost? This much. And what is average variable cost? This much. So initially you see average total cost is 1050, but who is occupying a greater portion? 1000. That is why initially the distance between the two is greater. Between the two means between average variable cost and average total cost is greater, but gradually you see AFC is falling, so the distance between these two gradually falls. Coming to marginal cost, I told you you can find marginal cost in two methods. You can find out the difference between two successive units for total cost or for total variable cost. Look here, 1140, 1090. You just subtract this, you are getting 50 rupees. Look, you are getting 50 here. Or you subtract total variable costs, 140 minus 90, still you are getting 50. So see, marginal cost is same. Sir, understood, sir. Understood, sir. Understood, sir. Sir, we have indeed understood this. So very important, remember this. Sir, what is the relationship between AC and MC? Very easy. When AC falls, MC is less than AC. It was similar to AP and MP, right? Similar, not the same, of course. When AC falls, MC is less than AC. So when AC falls, MC is less than AC. When AC rises, MC is more than AC. And when AC is at its minimum, MC equal to AC. When AC is at its minimum, very important this relationship, very important this relationship. When AC falls, MC is less than AC. When AC falls, MC is less than AC. I will show you this same concept in the diagram as well. But remember, when AC falls, MC is less than AC. When AC falls, MC is less than AC. When AC rises, MC is greater than AC. But when AC is minimum, MC equal to AC. Right? Let's see whether it's true or not. Right? When AC falls, MC is less than AC is what I said. Right? So let's have a check on it. Let's have a check on it. Look, have a check on it. Just have a look here. Just have a look here. Let me remove this and then we will kind of discuss. See, when average total cost, look at average total cost falling. Look here. And when it's falling, you see MC is lying below. Here is MC. And see, when average total cost reaches its minimum point, see, when average total cost reaches its minimum point, then MC is meeting AC. And see, as soon as AC rises, MC becomes greater than AC. Sir, indeed you are correct. Sir, we acknowledge this. You are correct, sir. So this much we have understood. Sir, this much we have understood. Sir, what about long run average cost curves? Sir, again a very simple concept here. See, in long run all the cost curves, all the costs are variable because all the factors of production are variable. But remember, long run average cost is also U-shaped. But this time don't say it is because of variable proportion, because in long run the law that operates is law of returns to scale. In long run the law operates is law of returns to scale. Understood? Okay. First of all, let's talk about the different names of long run average cost curve. This time they gave in the exam. So remember, long run average, this time is January 25. Long run average cost is also called, there are 2 to 3 names. So remember, it is also called blanket curve. Why? I will tell you. Remember, long run average cost is also called blanket curve. It is also called envelope curve. It's called blanket curve. It's called envelope curve. Blanket, envelope, blanket, envelope, blanket, envelope, blanket, envelope. It is also called planning curve. These are the 3 names for long run average cost curve. Why so? I'll tell you. I'll tell you why. Let me show it to you. See, there are various short run average cost curves that are possible. Yes or no? Now, what is long run made up of? What is long run made up of? Long run is made up of multiple short runs. So when you join all the minimum point of short run average costs, when you join all the minimum points of short run average cost, you get the long run average cost curve. Understood, sir? Understood, sir? Understood, sir? Now moving on. Now moving on. Everyone, so this is what the explanation is. Now, initially you see that long run average cost curve falls. Why, sir? Because when you produce on a large scale, there is an advantage called economies of scale. When you produce on a large scale, the per unit cost falls. Why? Because of advantages called economies of scale. But beyond a certain limit, instead of advantages, you start facing disadvantages. Those disadvantages are called diseconomies of scale. And guess what? The long run average cost curve rises. So it is attributed to economies and diseconomies of scale. So sir, why do these economies and diseconomies strike? And some examples also I will discuss with you. See, there are two types of economies. Remember, economies means advantages, diseconomies means disadvantages, right? Now there are two types of economies: internal economies and external economies. There are two types of disadvantages: internal diseconomies and external diseconomies. Let me highlight it for you. See, internal economies are those economies of production, that is advantages, which accrue to the firm when the firm expands its output so that cost of production goes down. It is due to factors which affect the firm, not the market. Within the firm, external economies arise when every member in the industry is benefited. Suppose we are talking about shoes industry. Okay, suppose i I am a shoe producer or a seller of shoes. My name is A. Now I have been able to find out a place outside India, let's say Spain, where leather is available very cheap. This is an advantage that only I have got. Yes or no? This is internal economy, particular to a firm. But assume that in India the price of leather falls. Then is this advantage restricted to me or all the firms in my industry? Sir, all the firms in your industry. That is external economy, external advantage. Understood? Some examples of anything going beyond a certain limit is a diseconomy, is a disadvantage. So let's highlight it. Technical economy. Technical economy. What is technical economy talking about, sir? It is when we are able to use more specialized and not more, but even better technology, right? Better equipment we are able to use. So when we produce at high levels, they are utilized efficiently and therefore the cost falls. So technical economies arise when you use new technology, when a firm uses new technology. But beyond a certain point, there is diseconomies. Because now you are producing so much that you are unable to manage that. So it is becoming a wastage rather than a cost. This is called diseconomies of scale. Understood. Sir, now what is managerial economies and diseconomies? Again, see, if you hire one manager, they cannot be exported everything, so you hire two managers, so the work is better distributed, each one is able to work on their forte. Yes or no? So this advantage is called managerial economy. But beyond a certain level, but beyond a certain limit, this economy is set in. Why? Because the organization becomes so big that the managers are only not able to coordinate with each other. In such a case, there is clear cut lack of communication, and thus this economy starts setting in. Understood, sir. Then there is commercial economies and diseconomies. Then there is commercial economies and diseconomies. So, sir, what is this commercial economy and diseconomy? See, suppose I decide to produce chips. Lace is also producing chips. Both of us approach a farmer. Tell me something. Will the farmer sell potato to me and Lace at the same price, or will there be a difference? You don't have to be a high grade economist to answer this. Naturally, Lace will be able to procure raw material at a much cheaper cost. Why? Because Lace is buying those raw materials in bulk. On the other hand, since I'll be buying in smaller quantities, Lace is not the farmer is not going to give me a bulk discount. You see, such advantages are called commercial economies. But after an optimum level, an organization have to spend much more on marketing, advertisement beyond a certain level. So thus this economy start to set in. You know, some African countries don't have GDP as much as Coca-Cola and Pepsi invest in their advertisement. Soon diseconomies will start setting in. Financial economies and diseconomies. A large firm, Reliance Industries, the Adani Group, obviously they also need loan from the bank. A person like me also needs loan from the bank. But tell me, at a lower rate of interest, bank will give the money to whom? Bank will sanction the loan for whom? The big giants. Why? Because they are going to take loans in bulk. So bank, even if bank charges a lesser interest towards them, bank is able to gain heavily on that. Bank is able to earn much on that. Understood, sir. So therefore, these are financial economies. But if you raise funds beyond a certain limit, then people will start seeing, okay, this company is in debt. Maybe they are having money, but they are in huge debt. So then this economy starts setting in. Understood, sir. Risk bearing economies and diseconomy. See, some large firms, you see the ITCs, big hotel chains. After COVID, did they get closed? Did they get shut down? No, because they are in a better position to kind of fight the unforeseen circumstances. But you see, in your locality, there would be many hotels or restaurants, small hotels or restaurants, which were closed after COVID because they could not survive. Understood, sir. Now, internal economies and diseconomies were advantages and disadvantages restricted to a firm. But when it is seen by the entire industry, we call it external. Have a look here. External economies and diseconomies. So, suppose the raw material gets cheaper in the market. The equipment gets cheaper in the market, in the industry. This is external economy experienced by everyone. Understood, sir. Some innovation has come, which has, you know, been able to, everybody has been able to adopt that. Let's say AI for that matter. Technical economy. Skilled labor. Over time, people become skilled. Now, every industry, every factory, or every company has skilled people. Obviously, per unit cost will fall because better utilization of resources will be made. Growth of ancillary industries. Yes. Suppose a car manufacturing company is set up. In order to support that car manufacturing company, another supporting industry will be set up. Somebody who makes spare tools. Yes. So this car company is also supported because of this spare tools industry. Understood, sir. So better availability of raw materials, better transportation facilities. Because when the industry grows, government also starts building, roads and railways around that area. So cost per unit falls. Yes, sir, we have understood this. And guess what, friends? Guess what, friends? This marks the end of our topic cost. The topic cost is completed fully.